A few lessons for Disney. Number one, stop cannibalizing all your old IP. Like, it's really bad. It's really bad business. Number two, please stop changing all of the historic plots, which actually have meaning to generations of people, to instead become generic woke story about how woman leads revolutionary uprising and she don't need no man.
Disney officially announced Snow White is getting yet another reboot following months of drama, industry embarrassment, and a tsunami of fan indignation. This new revelation comes after the train crash of a remake starring Rachel Zegler, generally regarded as one of the studio's worst flops in recent memory. Officially, The Way is Disney's largest box office catastrophe of all time. With the second weekend currently under progress, the train wreck is only getting worse for Disney. Disney higher-ups presented the new version as a strategic reset and a return to timeless storytelling at a closed-door press conference, clearly wanting to rebuild confidence and heal relationships with their multi-generational audience. It is impossible to spin this any other way than a massive catastrophic failure for Rachel Zegler and Disney, now that it is out in theaters, now that people have seen this, now that people are reviewing this, and now that we are getting the box office numbers. Originally hailed as a bold feminist reinterpretation of the 1937 classic, Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media channels, and what Disney called progress fans saw as a complete disdain for the original charm. Being the largest media company on Earth and having that company turn against you makes things rather difficult. When Zegler said a series of eyebrow-raising comments labeling the prince useless and the love story awkward, things rapidly spun out of control and did not exactly sit well with diehard viewers. Her interview clips caught like wildfire, and before long, the internet had declared war.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
She is a PR disaster. I can't know anyone would pay her. Every time Rachel Zegler opens her mouth, it's crisis mode when it comes to Disney. She made it so that you truly destroyed and stole hundreds of millions of dollars from the company. I don't know how anyone would ever want to go into company with her ever again. Insiders behind the scenes say Disney was taken aback by the backlash. True panic didn't strike until the trailer dropped, even though early test screenings weren't brilliant. Then forces of nostalgic fans, pop culture critics, and even casual viewers came together to show their dismay. It was an ongoing revolt, not just a reaction. For weeks, anti-film hashtags were trending. Disney's PR teams were allegedly rushing around constantly to contain flames. On IMDb, 1.9 out of 10. Those, by the way, weren't dwarfs, they were bandits. Thus, Snow White hates the quantity of like, if it isn't broken, leave it alone. Indeed, leave these stories alone. If it isn't broken, people would have gone and watched the movie, they would have made their money, but then people would have been let down after the math if she had not opened her mouth and had not engaged in all this crazy. Now, hoping to sweep the debris under the rug, the studio has approved a brand new Snow White remake, with filming set to begin late 2025. Disney maintains this version will respect the emotional core and visual spirit of the original, even though the cast is still under wraps. Stated differently, they are resurrecting the beloved characters, the timeless tunes, and the enchanted fairy tale sensibilities, that the last iteration somehow managed to eradicate entirely. Tino. Disney's choice to premiere a fresh adaptation shortly following the last disaster reveals the extreme desperation and high stakes the situation has evolved to demand. Over its run of live-action remakes, many of which have been flops both financially and critically, the company has come under fire. Its executives are betting that a carefully crafted reboot could just save the franchise and bring some of the nostalgia that once made it a crown jewel back to life, as the Snow White brand teetering on the brink of total brand collapse. Tano. Insiders claim that although it will sneak in a few well-selected updates, this next version will stick far more closely to the original 1937 plot. But don't expect another fairy tale rewrite. The changes they advocate will be respectful rather than revisionist. The magical Disney Day woke equity version of the 1937 classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, but since the word dwarves is now apparently controversial, Disney removed that part from the film altogether. Now the movie is just called Snow White, which would be like Disney removing lions from Lion King or mermaids from The Little Mermaid. The latest victim of really terrible ideas is finally here. One producer even said that the objective is not to mend what isn't broken, but rather to revitalize the ageless ideas of the movie with a little modern polish. Critics claim that this is a clear departure from the last movie, which sought to demolish everything in the name of reinventions using far too aggressive methods. Disney deserves a lot of the guilt, but Rachel Zegler also bears a great share. Let's not get it wrong, Snow White sits at a 1.5 out of 10, and the audience ratings on IMDb show among the worst in history. Disney's keeping official details under lock and key. Still, sources close to the project say the studio is looking for a lead actress who channels old-school Hollywood glamour, someone with natural charm, a warm screen presence, and strong vocal chops. Rumors about casting have already started whirl, and unlike the last go-ahead where off-camera interviews hijacked the conversation, this time Disney is allegedly enforcing stricter media training to ensure every public statement stays in line with the tone of the movie. The thing that truly surprises me about this narrative is Disney and all these media corporations invest hundreds of millions of dollars into these projects. Before you go and hire some crazy Zoomer, have they ever considered perhaps like a little bit of vulnerability research, opposition research, that sort of thing? Some terrible internal fallout preceded this closer approach to messaging. Leaked documents earlier this year exposed behind-the-scenes conflicts between Disney's creative, marketing, and public relations teams during the Rachel Zegler rollout. Driven not to repeat that mess, the studio is now running under much stricter control. As the new Snow White heads into development, the anarchy resulted in a PR campaign that seemed to contradict itself every other week. Indeed, this object is dead. That is, dead formally. Coming in a far third behind Working Man and a re-release of Chosen, Snow White just made $3,700,000 on Friday. The Supper from Last Supper, Rachel Zegler brought down a billion-dollar franchise. This is the face of a franchise killer. Not only is Snow White's cinematic reputation on the cutting edge bad, but Disney also suffered where it truly hurts. Products related to the last remake tanked so severely that big stores were cutting prices within weeks of release. Merchandising sales suffered, toys gathered on retail shelves, and clothing was practically thrown away. Millions of unsold inventory had to be written off, according to insiders from Disney's Consumer Products division. It wasn't only embarrassing, but also costly, and industry analysts are clear Disney cannot afford another merchandising disaster related to one of its main brands. Since this movie is hilariously bad, we will look at how exactly bad it is actually doing in the box office. It is a complete and total humiliation for Disney, and like I said, they deserve it all. Disney has hired a fresh creative team to spearhead efforts to turn things around. Early buzz indicates the new screenwriter has a knack for emotional storytelling with layered character development. The director, whose identity will supposedly be revealed shortly, has experience in both live-action hits with worldwide popularity and animation. Though the story will mostly follow the original, Disney is hoping this pair will bring the proper mix of heart charm and international appeal to the project. Some modern tweaks are expected. She really has to go as opposed to she has to go. I'm sorry, Disney. She told Variety that I am only accountable for what I feel. Then I am accountable for how I behave upon it, which makes no sense at all. Yes, the dwarfs are returning, reimagined carefully to avoid the backlash generated by their absence or awkward redesigns in the previous version. Fan-favorite forest animals are making a comeback this time, with upgraded animation combining CGI and practical effects for a more magical look. Once more, music will take front stage, combining modern tunes with beloved classics like Someday My Prince Will Come and Hi Ho. Made it or not? Did the dwarfs? Of course, the CGI dwarfs did not. That relates to the initial debate when Peter Dinklage, a very gifted little person actor, asked, "Why are we doing this? Aggressive is our hiring of a Latina actress to be Snow White. Disney is actually going old school, hiring veterans animators and legacy consultants who worked on previous princess films, which is perhaps the most unexpected action. Many of these artists helped define the legendary Disney Renaissance, and today they are sought for guidance on everything from tone to emotional timing." Insiders claim that this choice reflects a more comprehensive approach of re-establishing the artistic roots of the studio in a last-ditch effort to win back disappointed fans. The first press release for the new project came out rather modest, walking around the past disaster without calling out any specific people. We understand the need of respecting the narratives that shaped Disney into what it is now. Indeed, we know we messed up. The statement is carefully crafted PR speak for Disney understands it's treading on thin ice. The message was clear enough. Regarding Rachel Zegler's radio silence, the West Side Story breakout actor, once hailed as Disney's next big thing, has stayed underactive since word of the reboot leaked. Rachel Zegler is now choosing to disable responses on Instagram following significant criticism over the Snow White film, since she is entirely roasted in all of her comments on the platform. Everyone is roasting her. Everyone is calling her out for being among the main players explaining why this movie is failing as poorly as it is. Her past promotional interviews meant to support empowerment backfired spectacularly, with many viewers labeling them tone-deaf or essentially contemptuous of the original film. Although Ziegler later insisted her words had been distorted by then, the internet had already decided. She is obviously nowhere near the new project. Although official word is not known, insiders say Disney is choosing a clean slate for public image and casting. Though for now, Ziegler seems happy to let the storm pass. Ultimately, everyone's guess is that she will eventually address her absence. Disney would much prefer the focus remain on the film itself, not another social media circus. Snow stars Rachel Zegler opened to a dismal $43 million, ranking as the lowest debut weekend for any Disney live-action remake, surpassing 2019's Dumbo at $46 million. Though it is the worst ever, shame on you. Fan responses have been cautiously hopeful online forums, lit ablaze with mixed emotions, doubt, nostalgia, and even a few glimmers of excitement. Talks now start with curiosity rather than anger. Is it possible for Disney to carry off a redemption arc? Just let me have the magic once more. The tunes used in the Romance the Enchanted Forest vibe, if they follow through, landing, first in line will be me, exactly the kind of attitude Disney is depending on. With a theatrical release scheduled for spring 297, pre-production is scheduled to start in late 2025, the marketing machine is already preparing with ideas for early teaser art, soundtrack sneak peeks, and glossy behind-the-scenes content to pique excitement. And as we observed last weekend, the first weekend for Snow White, Rachel Zegler was clearly dealing real hard. She, of course, was speaking on Instagram. "Thank you so much for making this the #1 movie in the world, guys." And, well, this time around, with the second weekend, her approach is entirely different. Even Disney parks are getting in on the act with Snow White-themed updates. Supposed for some attractions before the movie opens, whether this audacious new approach will really work where the last one failed is yet unknown. Disney is not about to let a single high-profile tragedy bury Snow White's legacy, though. This reboot is a full-fledged redemption arc for a studio that wants to find the gold standard for fairy tales, not merely another cash-grab remake. Should they strike the ideal balance, it could serve as a potent reminder of the reason Snow White was the movie that launched it all. From the emotional beats to the smallest design element, behind-the-curtain Disney executives seem to be absolutely focused on maintaining everything aligned. From casting and costumes to the lighting and score, every component is under close inspection throughout several departments. The intention is to produce something that respects the legacy of the studio, while yet feeling fresh and artistically relevant. Disney seems to be aware that true storytelling magic cannot be replaced by any degree of corporate polish, and this version has to feel like a real return to form if it is going to work. Even the toughest critics of the studio agree that this film will enable Disney to take back its fading crown. The stakes transcend box office returns to include legacy. Reimagining Snow White is a litmus test for whether Disney can evolve while keeping true to what made audiences fall in love in the first place. Not only a creative one. The issue isn't whether they can create another variant, whether they can regain the faith of an audience still yearning the most fair one of all.